Hello, welcome to Patrice's Projects. Today we are going to be in the kitchen and we're going to stuff this here zucchini. I purposely grew this one large so that I could stuff it. I don't like doing the small or medium size zucchini. It's just too much work. You have to scrape out too many of them. So I like to do the big one and we all share it. So let's get started. I'm going to be using ground turkey in this recipe because I don't eat beef. I like to eat beef, but my body doesn't like it when I do. Let me show you what I'm going to be putting in this recipe. Let me bring you in close. First of all, we have our zucchini. This is 1 1/4 pounds. I'm not going to be cutting the stem off. I'm just going to be slicing it down the center and then removing the seeds. I have this small onion. This is from my garden. And I'll probably be using this whole onion. Also 1 pound of ground turkey. This is the 93% lean. The 99 there's no moisture in it, so I like to get the 93%. I've got a few cloves of garlic. This would probably be equivalent to 2 semi-large cloves. This is also from my garden. We've got something called sacred basil. I think it's called holy basil as well. I've got a little bit of that. That has a slight licorice type flavor and a little minty too, but it also has a basil flavor. This is Italian sweet basil, and I've also got something that the kids had gotten me, a little kit a long time ago. The leaves aren't looking too good right now. The plant is not doing well. It's it was called, I smashed this one accidentally, a Christmas Thai basil. And so I grabbed a few leaves off that too, why not? I got just a few sprigs of rosemary. You don't need much because it's pretty strong. I've got some thyme. My thyme is not doing real well in this heat, so I picked around and found some thyme that looks okay. I've got some marjoram. Same with that. It doesn't tolerate the heat real well, so I picked around. I'm going to have to take all these flower heads off and just use the leaves. I also have a lot of this stuff dried, so if it doesn't seem like enough, I'm going to add to it. But I think this will be okay. For the cheese, I have Asiago Romano Parmesan blend. I thought I was getting grated cheese. I actually got shaved. So I'm going to have to chop this stuff up and so that I can mix it into the meat mixture. I might lay some of these up on top. That might be kind of cool. And I've got shredded mozzarella. So those are all the things that I'm going to be putting in this, as well as breadcrumbs and an egg. I think I only have like Italian breadcrumbs or garlic. I'll probably use the garlic breadcrumbs if I don't have plain. So let's get started. Okay, I've separated all the leaves from the stems, and I was going to put a little bit more rosemary, but rosemary is pretty strong and I don't want to overpower it, even though my son loves rosemary. What I'm going to do is just, with rosemary, when I cut it, I like to cover it because it shoots everywhere. So I'm going to give it a rough cut first, make it a little bit smaller. And you can see it's just popping out of my hand anyway. Okay. Most of them are cut a little bit. And I separated the Italian basil from the other basil because I want to add some of the basil into, I forgot to mention, I'm also using a can of tomato sauce. This is just a little 8-ounce can. I washed my food processor, and so, I mean, even though I've got tomatoes all over there's tomatoes covering the counter over that way. But I don't feel like washing my food processor again, so I'm just going to use a can. Otherwise, what I would do is I would just process all the tomato skin and everything and make them into a sauce and use that. I'm going to be using the sauce on top of and under the zucchini, and I'll show you that when we get to that. So, got that rough chopped. I'm going to go ahead and pile these leaves up really nice, sort of nice anyway. Cut them into strips. I'm using a glass cutting board because these green leaves stain the plastic ones or wood ones. So I like to use a glass cutting board for stuff like this. This one wilted leaf is not wanting to cut. So anyway, I'm just going to cut into small pieces like that. And I did cut the stems off of these too, the part sticking out. That looks good enough. And I'm going to cut this separate and put part of this in with that, but not all of it. And one thing that you can do is stack them all up, roll them up, and cut it that way. It makes it a little easier to cut it because you don't have things flat to your cutting board. And a lot of people will just use it like that because if you cut it anymore, it bruises the basil, but I need it small to mix into the sauce and everything. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it up a little bit more. And then I'm going to separate, I didn't want to cut it real well, separate out a little bit of this for the sauce on top, about half of that, maybe a little more. So that will go in the tomato sauce, as well as half of my thyme. So if this were dried thyme, this would be about half a teaspoon. So, and I might put some more dried in, I don't know yet. So I could have chopped that up a little bit more too with the thyme. I think I will. The leaves are so tiny that sometimes I don't, but I want the flavor to really come out of it because there's not much. And I'm also going to chop up the marjoram. This marjoram would be about 1 teaspoon dried. So I'm going to mix it all together. I guess I could put a little marjoram in there too, huh? Why not? I love marjoram. Marjoram and basil are my two things that I put in almost everything. And my other big knife is dirty, that's why I'm using this little one. I like to have the flat bottom like that. It works much better when you're doing things like herbs. I'll probably use a bigger knife though when I'm cutting my onion up. I'm going to dice the onion. Okay, that looks good to me. And the garlic. Move that out of the way. The garlic, I didn't want to smash it on there because that's a glass cutting board. But what I did is I just took off all the loose stuff off the outside. And then you smash the garlic like that and it makes it a lot easier to peel. Let's give it a good smash. You don't want to completely obliterate it. This one I smashed a little bit more than I should have, but then the outside comes off so easy. It just peels right off. So that's your tip for today. I'm going to go ahead and clean up my garlic and then mince this up and dice the onion, and I'll be right back. I diced up the onion and minced the garlic. Now it's time to deal with this guy. He kind of wants to lay like that. So what I'm going to do is just slice it down this way because the curve is going to make it fall over anyway. So cut it right down the center as best I can. I just recorded scraping out the contents of this one, and I realized after the fact I was way over that way. So what I'm doing is I'm just scraping down the center, getting all the contents out. And some people use a melon baller. That probably works better with smaller zucchini, but this tablespoon seems to fit this one really well. And I just scrape it on out. Like that. Get it nice and clean. I'm also scraping part of the flesh out because I want it a little bit thinner. I did not, some people will pre-boil the zucchini for a few minutes to soften it some before they do this, because that way it cooks faster and the zucchini isn't as crunchy when you're done. What I'm doing is I'm scraping part of the flesh, not just the seeds, out as well to thin it out a little bit, so it's not too crunchy when it's done. It will still be firm, but hopefully not crunchy. So that's about as far as I'm going with that. Maybe a little bit more there. And then we're going to be using some of this inside of the mix for the zucchini. So get it nice and clean like that. You want a deep enough well to be able to fill it. That looks good to me. Okay, on to the next step. Okay, I've got everything cut up. I'm ready to start cooking. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of olive oil, just like maybe a tablespoon and a half, in the pan. There's the half. And get it heating up about medium-high. Swirl that around. And what I'm going to start with is the garlic and onions. I'm going to go ahead and saute those up by themselves because I want to put part of that into the tomato sauce that I'm going to be putting on top and underneath the zucchini when I'm putting it in the oven. So I want to get those done first, and then I'll put those on a little plate, and then we'll do the meat and then add some of that back in. So let's get started with that. There's the garlic. Onion. And I'm going to go ahead and just saute these until the onion is starting to get translucent. Let me bring in a little bit closer so you can watch this part instead of this part. Okay, that's a little bit better. So, just going to move around. I'm not going to add the herbs in yet because I don't want them to be overcooked. I want to put them into the meat mixture when I'm cooking that up. Should only take a couple minutes to get it where I want it. Okay, that is good. Go ahead and put that on a little plate and set it aside for right now. Okay, I've got all that sitting here on this little plate, and I'm going to go ahead and start cooking the meat in the same pan. It's got the flavor already in it. Normally, like when I'm doing spaghetti or something like that, I add the garlic to the raw meat, and then that way it absorbs the flavor of the garlic better. But because I needed the garlic cooked up separate. I'm not doing it that way. But I will be adding it to this when this is mostly cooked. I want to chunk this up really good. What I have done in the past is I went ahead and put the whole mixture together with the meat raw. And you can do it that way, but I want it to cook just a little bit faster. So I'm going to go ahead and cook the meat up first and then cool it down just a little bit before doing the whole mixture with it, because if I try and mix the egg in with it hot, it's going to cook the egg. So I'm going to go ahead and finish cooking this until it is no longer pink, and I'll be right back. Okay, I got it no longer pink. I'm going to add most of these onions back in. Oh, and I was preheating the oven, I just heard it click off, to 350, and we'll probably put the zucchini in the oven, because I'm doing it raw without pre-boiling the zucchini. It'll probably take between 30 and 45 minutes. We'll be checking it along the way. It varies. I like to cook it until the zucchini is just starting to get tender. I don't like it soggy. At this point, you could, if you want to put salt and pepper and things like that, that would be a good time to do it, is right now. I think I'm going to go ahead and put a little pepper. But we don't usually add salt to our food, so I'm not going to. Just a little bit. Okay, that's ready. And this has released quite a bit of juices, so even though I'm going to be losing some of the flavor of the garlic and onion, I'm going to go ahead and drain that juice, because we don't want this any wetter than necessary. And then I'm going to put this on a plate to cool it, because I need it to cool down pretty quick, because it's late and I'm hungry. While the meat is cooling, I'm going to go ahead and chop up a lot of the stuff that came out of the inside. Like 2/3 of it, I think will be good. I don't want it too juicy. Maybe 3/4, I don't know, something like that. So about that much. Just go ahead and just chop it up. Just so it mixes in to the mix nicely. That's almost good enough. You don't want any great big chunks in it. Probably about diced like the onion is what I'm after here. Okay, that looks good to me. That actually looks like a little more than I want. I'll put it in slowly and decide how much is the right amount when we get to the mixing part. Okay, now I'm just waiting on that meat. Okay, let's cut up some cheese. I'll show you what it looks like. I'm not going to have you sit there and watch me chopping up cheese, but see, it's just all big shavings. And I want quite a bit of it inside the filling. I'm going to go for the stuff on the bottom because it looks more like what I want. Look at that down there. Much better. That's about a little more than half a cup, I guess, of shavings. I guess it would be about the same. Let's find out how it looks when I cut it all up. 3/4 of a cup, maybe half a cup, all packed down. Okay, so that's what I'm going to be doing. That's close enough. Can you hear my stomach growling? Okay. Now, just waiting on the meat. So I'll be back in a few minutes. The meat has cooled down, and we're going to end up with a lot more mixture than what I'll be able to fit in that zucchini. So I'm not even sure I want to put all of. I'm going to go ahead and do it all, and then just put in what I can fit. So I get all the meat put into this bowl. And we've got that part of the filling that I'm going to put in last because I don't want too much moisture. I'm going to go ahead and put that much into there, a big handful, a little more. I'm going to reserve that to go on top. We're going to go ahead and put our herbs in. That part is for the topping over there, so I'll just take that part of it. Set that aside. I've got 1 egg scrambled here. Go ahead and put that in. Cheese that I didn't open yet. I'm going to put about 1/2 cup in there. And I'll be putting some more of that up on top of it too. I'm going to go ahead and mix this up a little bit. Well, might as well. What I'm doing is the Italian style breadcrumbs in here because the garlic and herb, I already have garlic in here and herbs, but I want to taste my garlic, not the garlic in the breadcrumbs. So go ahead and put about 1/3 of a cup. I think that's about it. Maybe a touch more. Okay, and I'm just going to go ahead and mix all this up and see what consistency I have. Seems a bit dry. So we'll go ahead and put some of the pulp from the center of the zucchini in. I'm going to grab a handful of that. That's most of it, not all. I'm going to go ahead and put it all. It feels pretty dry. So I guess since that was about 3/4 of the pulp that I took out of the zucchini, that's what you put it back in. That's feeling pretty good. And the egg will help to hold it all together as well as the cheese. And I have enough filling here to do like 2 of those big zucchini, but that's what I had to work with. So I guess I could have cooked half of the meat and made it the right amount, but this will be fine. Okay, now it's time to stuff that zucchini. Some people will add some of the tomato sauce into the mix. You can do that. You can add and subtract different herbs, whatever type that you prefer. And let me get something. I'm going to clean off real quick and then get something to put this all on. What I need to do now is make my sauce because I need to put it in the bottom of the pan. So I'm going to use the whole can. And put the onions and garlic in there. And the herbs. That in there. Give it a stir. Another thing you could do is like with meatloaf, I like to add brown sugar into my tomato sauce to make it a nice sweet topping. I'm not going to do that, however, because I don't want my zucchini sauce sweet. Okay, that looks good. It's all incorporated. And I'm just going to cover the bottom lightly with sauce. It kind of looks like spaghetti sauce. I think that's what I was kind of aiming for anyway. So just a nice thin coat across the whole bottom. For easier cleanup, what you could do also is put foil down here, but it sure doesn't look pretty when you present it that way, so I chose not to. Okay, that's coated. Maybe just a touch. There. Okay. Keep that out of the way. Now lay the zucchini in. I actually measured the zucchini to make sure it was going to fit. Before harvesting it, I didn't want it to get too big. I did that last year and I had to cut the ends off, and then it doesn't hold together the shape as well. So I guess I could have stuffed that before putting it in there. But it's kind of late now, so I'm going to go ahead and do it while it's in there. And if a little meat falls into the sauce, that's okay. You want to pile it up high. It is going to shrink down a little bit in the cooking process. But because I already cooked the meat, it's not going to shrink up a lot. I was able to pile almost the whole mixture on there. All I have left is this little bit. But that means it's going to take a lot longer to bake in the oven. But we'll see how long it takes. I'm going to go ahead and put it in at 350, and I will be back and let you know how long this takes. Okay, Houston, we got a problem. The sauce on the bottom has burnt because I had to cook it so long. And where's my fork? The zucchini is still a little more tough than I would prefer. The fork is not sliding into it easily, so pre-cooking the zucchini, you boil it for like 4 or 5 minutes prior to cutting it. Boil it for 4 or 5 minutes, cool it down a little bit, then cut it and seed it. The inside will still be firm enough, but the outside won't be as tough. I should have done that, but I didn't want to heat the house up by heating up my great big, I would have to use probably my canner to get something this size in there. And this still needs to go back in the oven because I need to put the sauce on. So maybe I shouldn't have put the sauce on the bottom. I'm going to put the sauce first. I'm going to put this into a different pan. So, the moral of this story is if you don't pre-cook your zucchini, don't put the sauce in the bottom. So I don't know if I mentioned that was 40 minutes cooking time. I checked it at 30 and the zucchini just was not soft at all. So it's getting there now. Hopefully this last bit of time will be the trick. But like I said, you know, pre-cook it if it's a great big one like this. Sorry about that. My phone had run out of memory, so the camera shut off. What I did was I put the sauce on as you saw, and then I just laid some of the pieces of cheese on there, that blend. And then I sprinkled what was left that I had chopped up on there. I didn't put the mozzarella on there because I needed to put it back in for 10 minutes and I didn't feel like destroying another pan, so I'm going to sprinkle this on when it comes out, which should be any moment. Okay. How does that look? See if that zucchini has softened up any. It's getting there. Not as soft as I prefer, but hey, you know, you can eat zucchini raw, right? So, let's take a closer look. I'd say that looks pretty good, and I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle some mozzarella on top and let that melt on. See how the meat is lightly browned? That's what you want just before you put your sauce on, for it to begin browning like that. Yeah, I'm getting this all over the pan. That's okay, because it's out of the oven. Get it all nice and cheesy. Okay. And I'd say that's ready to serve. Thanks for joining me in another project. Something I would do different is pre-boil that zucchini for about 4 or 5 minutes, or use small ones and stuff those. Other than that, I think I would do it the same. So this I baked it for 30 minutes, checked it, it wasn't quite there, baked it another 10 minutes, and then switched it to the other pan, put the sauce and the cheese on, put it back in for 10 minutes to let that heat up and melt. And then I sprinkled the mozzarella on there, and it's ready to serve. So thanks for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you aren't yet subscribed, go ahead and do that now, and then click the bell button for notifications of upcoming videos. Normally I don't flub something up and burn it right on camera, but hey, that's how it happened. But the zucchini survived. The sauce underneath was fine. It's just the pan that I'm going to have fun with later. I'll talk to you later. Bye. I can't use a knife in this dish, so I guess I will just cut it with a spatula. Oh yeah, it's tender enough. Here's what it looks like from the side. All the filling is right there. There we go. Thanks for watching. Bye.